A very good morning to you, dear listener, and welcome to Perspectives, a current affairs discussion program on iGate Radio 95.5 Star FM, Makudi, Benue State. Today on Perspectives, we shall discuss adherence to the rule of law in Nigeria. Our discussion this morning focuses on assessing adherence to the rule of law in Nigeria. Recent events in the country, in the National Assembly, and across some states in Nigeria, in Rivers State, and other parts of the country have tested the rule of law. To what extent are our Nigerian institutions adhering to the rule of law in a democratic setting? Are we adhering to it to strengthen our democracy, or is our democracy weakening? The institutions that are saddled with protecting the rule of law, are they living up to expectation? These are the issues we shall interrogate on this subject matter today. I've been joined here in the studio by two legal practitioners who are also public affairs commentators to offer insights on this subject matter. First, Barrister Timothy Amatimi is a legal practitioner based here in Makudi and a public affairs commentator. He has joined us on this edition. Thank you very much for joining us, Barrister Amatimi, and welcome to Perspectives.
Thank you very much. It's always my pleasure.
We also have another legal practitioner who is also a public affairs commentator, Barrister Mark Ibem. Welcome to the program, Barrister Ibem.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am Nathaniel Nongu, welcoming you to this Friday edition of the program. If this is your first time tuning into Perspectives, kindly be informed that Perspectives is audience participatory, which is to say at 10 o'clock, we will allow you, the listener, to phone in to have your voice on what we are discussing. You can reach us on the number 0814-335-9292. The number, once again, is 0814-335-9292. Meanwhile, the SMS line, which you can also participate on the program, is 0912-699-9404. 0912-699-9404. The line is also available on WhatsApp. You may listen to us also by logging onto our website on www.igateradiotv.com to access other content as well. We're available on Radio Garden and on social media platforms where our content is streaming. You may also download the iGate Radio and TV app from Google Play Store, which avails you the platforms of our television online, the radio, as well as newspaper. Please join us on these platforms to be a part of this discussion. We'll take a short breather, and once we're back, the discussion begins. Kindly stay with us. Welcome back from that short break. Let me begin with you, Barrister Amatimi. Speak to us the context of the rule of law in a democratic setting in the Nigerian society as we are. Would you say the rule of law, adherence to it, is being practiced?
Thank you very much. I think for us to properly conceptualize our conversation today, it's imperative for us to understand what the rule of law is. Now, that is a concept that presupposes the respect, absolute respect to the law as opposed to the rule of man. So it is not just the dictate of man or the feeling of man, but it is a practice that expects all individuals, institutions, and organizations and government to respect the laws of the land. Now, it is in line with that Section 1 of the Constitution has firmly, beyond doubt, established the supremacy of the Constitution, thereby subjecting all persons, individuals, government, to the Constitution, such that anything that is contrary to the provisions of the Constitution is null and void. And that, to my mind, has established the rule of law. Now, there are essential ingredients of the rule of law. Right? Now, in the state of nature, where life was brutish and short, might was right. Now, that is a concept that is speaking to the rule of man. So in a state where we have certain rules and regulations that direct the operations of man, institutions around man and all that, the rule of law must be respected. And all institutions, nobody is above the law. We are all equal. Where individuals are expected to respect court decisions and judgment without being selective, of all that. And then we are in the impartiality of the law. So whether you are short or tall, whether you are rich or poor, it doesn't matter as far as the rule of law is concerned. So any country that must develop, such a country must cultivate the practice of respecting the rule of law. And for us as a nation, we have been battling with that conversation for a long period of time, apparently because of the prolonged military rule we went through. So even though we have transited from a military rule to a democratic setup, we still have instances or incidences of abuse of people's rights, of human rights violations, disobedience of court orders, and then a lot of other issues that shouldn't be seen in a society that upholds the rule of law.
Okay, Barrister Ibe, let me have your thoughts. How would you describe the current state of adherence to the rule of law in Nigeria today in our democratic setting as we are?
Thank you very much, Usha. As a matter of fact, there is it is partly why there are so many conflicting judgments of court. It is partly why there are so many skirmishes here and there. A lot of this arises basically because the rule of law is subjugated to the...
Our democracy as it is, in the democratic setting of Nigeria as it is, we are practicing not the rule of law, but the rule of man. Speak to us, maybe you want to expand the...
of the rule of law.
Yes.
One, accountability. 2, impartiality. 3, independence of the arms of government. These are 3 key principles of the rule of law. And a perusal of this, if you analyze various instances, you see that this is obeyed more in the breach than in the fact of it. Maybe as the program goes on, we get into specific instances and all that. But on a broad note, it's there is more of might is right than adherence to the rule of law.
Okay, now, Barrister Amatime, would you like to expand a bit more on some of the key principles of the rule of law and how they can contribute to upholding the system in our democracy in Nigeria?
Number one, I wish to even speak to the issue of the separation of power between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. In Nigeria today, and from our experience, since the return to democracy in 1999, you agree with me that there have been a lot of challenges with us practicing the true democracy that we ought to do or encourage as a nation. Now, can we really say the various legislatures are independent of the executive? At the state level, we know what happened, the charade that happens at that level, where most times, in fact, there was an incident that happened in this country where the State Houses of Assembly voted against their autonomy. Now, that clearly, to my mind, was an indication that the executive were in absolute control of the various State Houses of Assembly, because a man who refuses to be independent, for me, someone who prefers to be a slave, should be mentally examined to really understand the state of mind of that person. But we experience that in this country. So most times we have situations where executive bills are giving us, things that have direct bearings or policies that have direct bearings on the poor masses. So situations where we have more of rubber stamp lawmakers or assemblies in this country, to my mind, has not really helped us as a nation. And that has accounted for what? From 1990 date, notwithstanding the trillions of allocations that have accrued to the various state government, federal and local government, we have not really felt the impact Because do we really have leaders who are accountable? Are the lawmakers holding our executive accountable? Now we have the instrument of impeachment that is available to the lawmakers. Situations where members of the executive who are elected by the people violate the constitution or laws of the land. But have we really exercised that without political interference or interest here and there? So most times we have lawmakers, we have executive who violate our laws. Sometimes they even spend outside the budgetary provision. But we have lawmakers who do nothing about it. So you see, substantially, the three arms of government, and if one can make bold to even assert that the judiciary at the moment is not even independent. The judiciary is not independent because we have the executive floating judgments of court. They select which one to obey and which one not to obey. That ought not to be so. And substantially because the judiciary does not have its own police arm to implement or enforce the judgment, once judgments of court are delivered, the judiciary still relies on the executive to enforce those judgments. So there are litanies of judgment given against the police for violation of fundamental rights of citizens, but enforcement is an issue. So you have a judgment that is gathering dust. So when we are serious as a nation to begin the serious conversation around adherence to the rule of law, these three arms of government must work independently of each other. There was a time under the Buhari administration where houses of judges of the Supreme Court were invaded in the late hours of the night as a way of intimidating them from carrying out their judicial function. That ought not to be so in a decent society. So as a nation, people are treated equally and there is absolute respect for the fundamental right of citizens. Go around our law enforcement facilities and you'll be shocked with what you see. People are wrongly arrested, forcefully detained for a prolonged period of time without any arraignment in court. And then at the end of the day, no one is held accountable for some of these violations. And most times when the citizens are so poor to the level that they can't even enforce their right, they lack even the financial wherewithal to go about enforcing their fundamental right, then it's a sorry situation. So we must entrench democracy in this country in the real sense of it. Beyond the lip service, beyond just talking about what is in the law books, are we really practicing that democracy that is expected of us? The rule of law. We have powerful institutions. Instead of having powerful institutions, we have powerful individuals who seems to be above the law of this land. We have people, former presidents, who ruled us with reckless abandon, who disrespected our laws. But after leaving office, what happened to them? Nothing. Just some few weeks ago, the former president of this country, head of state, so to say, launched a book where he admitted nullifying an election that was very transparent, credible, but nothing has been done. I think he should have a day in court to account for that illegality that he perpetrated when he was the head of state.
All right. Now, Barrister Ibia, your co-panelist has touched on a number of things, and he also insisted that there is no judiciary independence. But in the laws and on the paper, it is stated that that independence is there. Now, how has the judiciary in Nigeria upheld the rule of law over the years, and what challenges has it faced in enforcing the rule of law?
Thank you very much. The judiciary, as my co-panelist has already stated, is not independent. You have a situation where the judiciary depends on the executive for their funding. You have a situation where the members of the executive are directly involved in the appointment of judges and heads of courts. As you rightly stated, the judiciary doesn't have an enforcement arm. So you have to enforce any judgment, you have to run back to the executive. And sometimes this fusion, rather than creating a situation of balance, creates an unholy alliance. It creates a situation where somebody thinks I may need to curry the favor of the man who holds the purse because I might need something from him. And then as human beings, we all know that we have needs, we have wants. And these needs and wants are insatiable. Now you have a situation where a member of the executive, a governor, so to speak, decides to pick and choose. And when he needs favors from the same judiciary, he runs to those people. There's a compromise already. The mere fact that you're willing to take gifts from such a person who has been identified as a serial litigant, you know he's definitely coming to your court one day, and you take gifts from him, it compromises the very integrity and independence of the judiciary. It contravenes the principles of the rule of law, because this violates accountability, it violates impartiality, and it violates the separation of powers. So I agree totally with him, and I also always have something to say about what you get and what you don't. He also made mention of situations where you can't enforce court judgments. You get judgment against the AIG, for instance, and you need to enforce that judgment. Which policeman is going to accompany you to the AIG's residence or office to enforce that kind of judgment? It's as good as forgetting about it, because there's no way you can enforce that kind of judgment. Thank you.
All right. Now, Barrister Matimi, you also mentioned your earlier submission about the executive. I would like you to speak to us. How has the executive arm of government in Nigeria adhered to the rule of law, especially the recent years you would like to point out?
To some extent, respect that owes you. You know, the very second that judgment is delivered, there is strict compliance. But when it doesn't favor them, they now begin to, we are yet to receive the judgment. So until we get the CTC of the judgment before we talk about implementing it. Now, most times, you have situations where even our rules, our laws, encourage some of this executive rascality. A situation where I think Section 98 of the Sheriff and Civil Process, law requires that for you to enforce judgments of court against the government, you must seek and obtain the consent of the Attorney General. Now you have gotten a judgment against the government. Now you have a law that is mandating you to seek the consent of the Attorney General that is serving in the same government before you enforce that judgment. I think this makes caricature of our whole justice system. It doesn't really speak well of us because of the truth. There are some of this judgment that you will write for the consent, you will never get it. So what becomes of the judgment that has been delivered? So it's just an exercise in futility. So until we have leaders who, number one, respect our laws, until that is done, we are very far from practicing the rule of law. And in fact, if we must tell ourselves the truth, the average man on the street is disenchanted with the system. It is getting to the point that even legal practitioners are beginning to lose faith in the process and the system for those who are decently minded. When you go to court these days, you pray that justice should be done to your case. The certainty in our court pronouncement is not there these days. Before, our little knowledge of the law will tell you that the raw is becoming a very disturbing trend that needs to be checked if we must develop as a nation. And the lady Portia, that lady of justice, seems not to be blindfolded today in our country and our experience with the system. Judgments are given based on the status and the personalities of persons who are before our courts. Should that be the order of the day and encouraged to grow? Today we have individuals who confidently boast about the illegal acts they perpetrate and nothing happened to them. Until our leaders are held accountable. He spoke about accountability as one of the key element of the rule of law. Are we really accountable in this nation? Are we really accountable? Do we have leaders who respect the people by being accountable to them? So during electioneering campaigns, even the areas that are inaccessible are assessed during election. But after elections, all you hear is about siren from left and right. Now dare try going close to your elected leaders. The security will beat the hell out of you. We have situations where people are detained by some law enforcement agents, and even when you go there to see them, they deny knowledge of these persons. People have disappeared for 5 years in this country, and lo and behold, they were under detention. There are situations where court orders are even made, either, for instance, requiring DSS to present certain persons in their custody. They fail to comply with such orders and nothing happens. I think it's time our elected leaders begin to hold heads of these agencies accountable. Situations where laws and judgments of court are violated with reckless abandon by heads of these government agencies, they should be sanctioned. Are they really obedient? So that era of the military rule is still there with our military. So they feel they are above the law of this country. They do on snails. You see a write-up on it, military zone, keep off. How does your personal property become a military zone? But it is flowing from that military experience. We got used to over a long period of time that people feel they can do and undo. All persons, all our constitution are subject to the constitution, the same way you and I are subject to that constitution. Whether you are the president or the governor or a chairman, you are duty bound to respect the constitution. In fact, their oath of office speaks to the fact that they have sworn to uphold and respect and enforce the constitution. Therefore, any departure from that is a violation. It's an impeachable offense. We had a president who spent outside the provisions of the budget, but the National Assembly did nothing about it. Who knows what is happening at the various states level, what the governors are doing with the spendings, right? So until we begin to hold our leaders accountable, until we respect the fundamental right of citizens, we still have a very long way to go as a nation.
All right. Now, Barrister IBM, let's look at a few cases in point here, particularly what is happening in the Senate. You may have followed the whole drama involving the Kogi Central Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, as well as Senate President Godswill Akpabio, and of course the unending political drama in Rivers State. All this, do they actually speak to adherence to the rule of law in our country?
Thank you very much. No, they don't. First and foremost, there's a point I would like to make. The President of the Senate, for instance, is a lawyer. The leader of the Senate Majority Leader, is a lawyer. The chairman of the Ethics Committee that recommended the suspension of this lady is a lawyer. Now, there are a plethora of cases where the Supreme Court has held that suspension of a legislator is unconscionable and a violation of the rights of the constituents of that legislature. A few come to mind. In 2010, thereabout, Dino Melai was suspended from the Senate. He and 10 others. They went to court. The Supreme Court said no, that was wrong. In fact, the locus classicus of this is a case from Kogi State. Elder Friday, somebody against the Kogi State House of Assembly. That decision came in 2015 or so. He was suspended from the House. He went to court, and the Supreme Court said no. You cannot suspend. He went all the way from the High Court to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said no, you cannot suspend this man. Suspending this man connotes suspending the entire constituency that sent him here. That's one. Two, you cannot withhold his salaries or allowances because he's not your employee. He's not the employee of the House of Assembly. So you had no right. And then these cases, several of them happen in the House of Reps at the various state houses of assembly. But focusing on the Senate, you had the matter of Dino Melaye that I mentioned earlier. You had the matter of Abdul Mumin Aminu. You had the matter of Senator Omo Obiagege. And then the most recent of them, I think the Abdul Ningi matter, he was suspended because he accused the House of the Senate of padding the budget. And he was, the law firm of Femi Falana SAN wrote to them and said, look, there are a plethora of court decisions that say you cannot suspend a senator, and advanced reasons for this. And while they were preparing to go to court, the Senate recalled him and paid all his salaries and allowances. This was just last year in 2024. Now, barely 6, 7, 8 months down the line, you are confronted with the same situation. The suspension of a senator. A decision that the Supreme Courts have held over and over and over that is illegal. You're confronted with the same situation 6, 7, 8 months down the line after Abdul Mumini's matter. And you go ahead to do the same thing that you have been told over and over. Incidentally, the last one we're talking about came while Akpabio was Senate President. And to make matters worse, these people had been served with a court order, which asked them to hold any stay regarding this issue until the determination of the motion or notice. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it is instructive to note that the Senate President is a lawyer. The Senate Majority Leader, Bamidele, is a lawyer. The chairman of the Ethics Committee is a lawyer. And these are people who should know about upholding the rule of law because it should form a cardinal principle of their lives. Who should know more about law other than lawyers and those who practice it? And even if you are not a lawyer, for the mere fact that this has happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and the courts have said, no, what you did was wrong, it was simply a matter of perhaps even the clerk of the house, because this is the custodian of the records. It was just a matter of the clerk perhaps saying, this happened before the court said, no, you can't do this, or this is wrong. But we talked about might is right, and that's exactly what is playing out. The clerk perhaps may even be scared to offer that kind of opinion. Now, to make matters worse, while this process was going, a date was fixed. I think it was the 12th or 13th that the Ethics Committee was supposed to meet and determine this matter. All of a sudden, the matter came up in plenary. It was voted upon and carried out. And then a whooping 6 months, unheard of. Then an elected person, you didn't hang the toga of a senator on her. She was duly elected. And you tell such a person not to even address herself as a senator. It's absurd. It's absurd. It simply shows that there's a preconceived animosity. There is this idea of let's teach her a lesson. Who does she think she is? I'm not speaking to the rightness or wrongness of her accusations. I don't know about that. I was not part of
that is not even the substance of what we are looking at too.
So I don't know anything about it. But the point is, institutions, just like the individuals, should be able to do the right thing. They should be able to, in fact, institutions should be held more accountable where the rule of law is concerned. The individual may be excused, ignorance perhaps, but you cannot have maybe forgetfulness or something. But you cannot have institutional memory loss. If the Senate President does not know that this kind of thing happened before and is wrong, the custodians of this, the history, the custodians of the rules and practice of the Senate should be able to advise. How many people can give that kind of advice? In any case, how many of the people there are willing to take that advice? So it's truly a shameful situation. The Senate is the highest lawmaking body in this country. And if the same Senate can so unashamedly flout its own rules and regulations, flout orders of court, previous orders of court, flout an order of court regarding this same matter that was served on them, it's truly, truly, truly a big shame.
One keeps wondering, Barrister Martin, for instance, this issue, small red book, and the rules books of the Senate, a small red book any senator rises with. They quote it so religiously, and abide by it doesn't mean that rule book reigns supreme over the constitution of Nigeria.
Now, their rules is even the creation of the Constitution. The section of the by Section 1, subsection 3 of the Constitution, any law, any policy or government, so you can't be making rules. My colleague rightly, opined. I watched the proceedings and I was so terrified with what I saw. Because when it came to voting, I listened carefully when the Senate President was reading the second resolution. And then there was a vote against that resolution. But at the end of the day, in fact, he read it 3 times. After the first time, he said, for those who didn't hear me very well. He read again, and he got a resounding no. But he still went on to say the ayes have it. It was a public display of shame, if you ask me. And that shouldn't be the way to go. And it's rather very shocking for me, as a lawyer today, to have a Senate President who happens to be a lawyer, a very senior lawyer at that, sit and then begin to violate the natural principles of justice, where you are not supposed to be a judge in your own case. One would have expected the Senate President to step down, not resigning, but to allow the Deputy Senate President to preside over the proceedings of the House, where the said senator, who had issues with the Senate President, had a petition to present and had presented a petition. In fact, you are accusing the person who is presiding over your own petition. So one would have expected that the Senate President will not be a judge in his own case by allowing a neutral person and in the person of the Deputy Senate President to preside. But he did preside and went on to suspend a senator, and to the greatest surprise and to the chagrin of dissenting mind, to discover that you asked a senator not to parade herself as a senator when you never elected her. And the people who elected her, the only right they have by the Constitution is the right of recall. And they have not recalled her as a senator. So where do you derive the powers and the right to suspend her, and not just to suspend her, but stop her salary from being paid, withdraw her security, ask her not to parade herself as a senator? I think that was an action taken to the extreme. And for those of us who are watching it, it is a sorry experience for our democracy. And until elected leaders who are empowered by the people to make laws, the business of lawmaking is a serious business. We shouldn't be grooming and encouraging lawbreakers who, in the real sense of things, should be lawmakers. They should and are under obligation to respect the laws of the nation. And it's from them that all citizens will learn to respect the laws of the land. When that is not done, and you begin to expect the average man on the street, that illiterate farmer, that illiterate cattle rearer, to respect the laws of the land, then you are expecting the impossible. When the educated, the learned, choose to disrespect the laws of the land, we are expecting a chaotic situation. We are encouraging anarchy, and that should not be the way to go.
All right, dear listener, if you are just tuning in, you are listening to Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM. Makurdi. Our discussion is focused on assessing adherence to the rule of law in Nigeria. And at 10 o'clock, 335-9292 to contribute. The number, once again, 0814-335-9292. Meanwhile, the SMS line is already activated. It's 0912-699-9404. The line again, 0912-699-9404. Please remember to include your full name and where you are sending your text message from. That line is also available on WhatsApp. Now, Barrister Ibiam, still this scenario of, that we're looking at in line with adherence to the rule of law, the experience in Rivers State seem to be rested now with the Supreme Court judgment involving Governor Fubara and the lawmakers in the state under the speakership of Martins Ameule. Would you say the experience in Rivers State is going the direction that the rule of law will be adhered to, especially now that the Supreme Court has ruled?
Thank you very much. It's the situation in Rivers State is truly worrisome. It's a situation that creates room for so much uncertainty. A basic principle of law that guides even lawyers in the course of preparing their briefs and all that is the doctrine of stare decisis. What does this mean? It simply means that decisions of superior courts are to be respected by courts below them in the hierarchy, and even that same superior court, until such a decision is set aside. The matter of defection of members from one party to another was settled by the same Supreme Court in 2015. And in that ruling, Justice Onogen, former CJN, of course he was not CJN then, but in that ruling it was his the conditions under which you can move from one party to the other were stated very clearly. And the conditions, part of those situation was where there is a disturbance or a crisis, a fractionalization of the party, to the extent that that political party is unable to function as a whole component. It's unable to function well as a political party. Now, the Amawile and 26 other situations. Number one, it is not the same. There was no crisis in the PDP. Unilaterally on their own, they moved to the APC. They announced this on the floor of the House. They even signed, deposed to affidavits in respect of that. And ordinarily, when we're talking about the situation where institutions are not strong, individuals are, it was left to INEC to immediately declare those seats vacant and make arrangements to conduct by-elections into those seats. Of course, INEC didn't do that, and it's based on the fact that strong individuals, not institutions, they were waiting for somebody to give the nudge. I bet you if these guys had left the APC to a party like the PDP or the Labour Party, we won't be talking about this here today. But having moved the ruling party, it was obvious they were now going to be an asset to the party. Now, another thing to look at about this, and then to give you an idea of strong people, not institutions. This matter was instituted on the, I think, 30th of July, thereabouts. From 30th of July to last week, when this judgment was given, is barely 6 months, just a little over 6 months. You have a matter that has already traveled from the High Court to the Supreme Court in 6 months. As we speak, I have a fundamental rights matter that was filed on the 11th of April, 2022. Next month makes it 3 years. We've not proceeded with that matter in the Federal High Court. That's a fundamental rights matter. You now have a situation where in 6 months, a suit has traveled from the State High Court, from the Federal High Court, all the way to the Supreme Court, and a pronouncement has been given. It shows there's some undue influence somewhere. It shows somebody is interested in the outcome of that decision, and such person or persons have worked to ensure that the required decision was reached. Still flowing from the doctrine of stare decisis I talked about, the 2015 decision by the Supreme Court was by a 7-man panel. The panel that seemingly overnight overturned the decision in 2015 was a 5-man panel. And this is established law that a smaller panel within the same hierarchy of courts cannot overturn the decision of a larger panel within the same hierarchy or the same jurisdiction, same hierarchy. What's the word I want? Coordinate jurisdiction. You can't do that. So when you look at this, it is very obvious that somebody is interested in that outcome. And flowing from the decision in 2015, what this decision of 2025 has done is simply to encourage the flouting of the Constitution. It is simply to encourage acts of illegality. By the operation of law, the very day these members of the House announced their defection, they cease to be lawmakers. The Supreme Court has foisted them back upon the Rivers State people. And I dare say that whatever those people do in the exercise of any legislative function is unconstitutional and should be null and void. Because in the eyes of the law, these people are no more. Once the Supreme Court takes a stand on a decision, until they reverse themselves, it becomes law. So it's truly, truly a shameful episode. It's truly, truly appalling. Like my learned senior stated earlier, it makes you, as a lawyer, you're going to court now, you don't even know where you stand anymore. Because in the past, you could confidently go to court and say, based on so and so decision, we rely on this to argue thus. You can't even do that now.
All right. So in the twist of this whole scenario in Rivers, which we're speaking to the adherence to the rule of law part of it, Governor Siminalayi Fubara was open adherence to the rule of law. And given that these 27 lawmakers also stood their grounds and were challenging whatever it was in the court, the reinstatement of Martin Ameule now as a Speaker of the Assembly, means there were two speakers in that part of the state. We are focusing on this because what happens in Rivers may just be a microcosm of what may reflect in another state in Nigeria tomorrow. Speak to this.
As I stated earlier, the very moment those members announced their defection on the floor of the House, they ceased to be lawmakers by operation of law. So there was no basis for Ameule to still claim to be a Speaker of the House. By operation of law, he ceased to be a member of the House of Assembly the moment that defection took place. Now you had a situation where just a few members of the House were operating, passing budgets and all that. But what does the law say about the operation of the House of Assembly? It talks about a quorum of members of the House of Assembly.
So would you say the 3 member or 4
members? At that time, they were the only members of the House of Assembly.
Okay.
So if they sit, they would have formed a quorum. It talks about a quorum, a 2/3 of the members of the House of Assembly. So at that point, if the 27 had left, whoever were remaining were the only members of the House of Assembly. And whatever decision they took, if they were within, if they had a 2/3 majority of those of them who were remaining, I consider it lawful and valid. It does not talk about the House of Assemblies in our federation does not have equal numbers. So when you talk about a quorum, it is a quorum of the members of the House of Assembly, not the totality of the members who are not members of the House of Assembly. So by operation of law, these seats were vacated. So these were the only available members of the House. So if they formed a quorum, they were good to go.
In any case, the interesting aspect again was that it was the governor who pronounced their seats as being vacant, which according to law and analysts say that it is not the responsibility of the governor to pronounce the seats of the legislators vacant. How do you react to this?
Well, tough one. I did not really avert my mind to that. I've not followed up or really bothered to study or know who should declare a seat vacant. In my honest opinion, however, it should be the Independent National Electoral Commission. I think I stated that here earlier. It should be the Independent National Electoral Commission. Why? Because they are responsible for the conduct of elections. They should know when elections should hold.
In any case, maybe fact check reveals that for legislators, it is actually the head of the legislature, the legislature that will announce that. For instance, just a few days ago, Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced certain Senate seats vacant by way of deaths and other members of the Senate who left to get elected positions, or like the governor of Edo State and I think Senator Uba in the southeast who died, and some of them. So just to put you correctly, that
does the announcement of that vacancy by the governor render the fact that these people had vacated their seats invalid? Go and invalidate the larger picture of what has already happened.
So as it is, the non-adherence to the rule of law is not just one-sided. Now,
no, it's not.
Barrister Matimi, let me have your thoughts on this Rivers issue briefly before we move forward.
All right. Okay. While adopting his own position on that issue, I just want to give this example illustration to drive home my point. Assuming we will have an assembly consisting of 33 members, and God forbid, 20. So, by the operation of the law and the doctrine of necessity, the assembly will continue to function, subject to a by-election being conducted by the electoral body to replace the deceased lawmakers. Now, having said that, I think the situation in Rivers State is a very bad narrative for us as a nation. And it's just very disappointing that I have heard this opinion that if we have a fearless, courageous judiciary, most of the messes we see in this country will be a thing of the past. Because the judiciary occupies a very sensitive position in the affairs of any democracy. Reason being that it is the duty of the lawmakers to make laws, and such laws will only become effective when interpreted by the judiciary. Policies of government are implemented by the executive, and such policies can be nullified, or programs can be nullified by the judiciary. So we need to have an independent judiciary, and that for me reminds me of this concern Nigerians expressed when they saw the minister of the FCT seizing properties or lands and donating to the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Nigerians were worried that that ought not to be so. And that reminds me of this current tradition where governors buy cars for judges as gift, or whatever name or subhead such cars are called. It should be the responsibility of the heads of court to buy cars for judges, not for the executive. If the judiciary is truly independent and financially independent, then the judges, the system should take care of itself, as opposed to the chief judge of the state going with a cup in hand to the executive. That ought not to be so. In fact, we spoke about the National Assembly. We had a similar situation that played out in the State House of Assembly recently, where some lawmakers were suspended by the House. So the problem we are complaining at the national level, we have a similar problem at the state level, right? Now, such members, in fact, interestingly, I think about 2 days ago, I watched a proceedings from the House where their position in the House were replaced, where other members of the House were appointed to take over their position. This is very unhealthy for our system. And when we defend and project or promote what benefits us, whether it is right or wrong, then we are part of the problem of this country. And for me, I've come to see that some Nigerians are advocates of truth when it's convenient. When they are benefiting from the system, they see nothing wrong with the system. Only when the interest or that benefit ceases to flow, that they begin to realize that the system was defective, that the system was fundamentally wrong, the way it was being run. So until we begin to speak truth to power, irrespective of whose interest is affected, we are very far from growing as a nation. And for a very quite long period of time, we have been very, very untruthful to ourselves as a nation. People elected to execute programs that benefit the interests of the people who are looking after themselves, pursuing their own interests, acquiring properties left, right, center. And then the average man on the street is struggling to feed. The average man on the street is struggling to buy drugs. So life will be more meaningful when we respect the rule of law. Nigerians will feel the impact of the current democracy we practice when the rule of law is entrenched in our system. People across board should respect the rule of law. In fact, yesterday I was following a post on Facebook, and I saw a National Assembly member. He made a comment that was very disturbing. Over the river situation, he asked that who has control of INEC. That was in respect of a post where someone made that there are current plans by the constituents of the current Speaker, Amahuli, to recall him. Now, a National Assembly member commented that who has control of INEC, that is to pretend, that is to supervise that process of recall. Now, when you hear some of these comments coming from respected persons in the society, people who are part of the policy-making process of this nation, it's very disturbing. And it gives you an insight as to what preoccupies the minds of our leaders. It gives you a direction as to where we are heading, whether forward or backward as a nation. And until we begin to identify those things that are wrong in our system and then work towards correcting them, until we begin to hold our leaders accountable, we'll still continue to lament over the same issue over and over.
All right. We're due to start engaging with the listener, but that will be after this short breather. Please stay with us. Welcome back from that short break, and thank you for staying with us. If you are just tuning in, you are listening to Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makudi. Our discussion is focused on assessing adherence to the rule of law in Nigeria. The number to phone in on the program is 0814-335-9292. I take the number again, 0814-335-9292. Once you connect with us, we would like to know your full name and where.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, guests in the house.
Thank you.
My name is Tefa ST, calling from KN Kano, northwest part of Nigeria this morning.
All right, good to have you join us, Tefa.
Thank you for anchoring this program. You see, rule of law, nobody is above rule of law. But in some cases, in our country now, sometimes some people, they are above law. And it's not like that. A lot of problem in our country. Sometimes somebody will have case, will go to court will pass judgment, we have it. So to me, government needs something of the Senate or the House or Rep, they have to review this thing so that people will know it, and they will be strictly, if anybody found violating it, they will be sanctioned so that it will show as a deterrent to others. I think by that we have a better nation. That is my take this morning.
Okay, thank you, Tefa. We appreciate your submission.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Tefa is worried that people don't adhere to the rule of law. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. This is Friday calling from International Market Road.
Okay, Friday, who?
Ogbodo calling from International Market Road.
Good to have you, Friday. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Now, thanks to your girls in the house. I think rule of law is a basic way to go if Nigeria must grow among its committee of nations. You know, I said it the last time. The problem we have in this country, we have the three arms of government. Each knows what to do, but each want to violate the rule of law to be able to superimpose what they want on Nigerian and the people. And I will always blame it back to the bar and the bench. What are the judges doing? What are the lawyers doing? Following simple principles of law. And you see, to your guests in the studio, usually our lawyers are actually divided on issues on personal opinion. Their views and ideas about situations is what derive what they discuss. I think when the case is taken to the court, we should look at the merit of the case, not our standpoints. Yes, you can see that the Rivers case is being mentioned everywhere now. What is being brought before the court is what the court will work with. The court is not the Father Christmas that will allocate. It is on the basis of your presentation that the court. If anybody have issue with that, the person is going against the principles of the rule of law. This brings us to back. Politicians will always want to impose their decisions on the citizenry and everything that has to do with the nation. But the lawyers and the judges should ensure to tell them when necessary, Your Excellency, this is wrong. And the lawmakers are not left out of this also. Politicians use them to be able to achieve their personal gain. We look at the last situation, procedures that is laid ban to be that Nigerians and Nigerian people, nations, no nation can be better than obeying rules and regulations. Okay. This is my submission this morning. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you, Friday Obodo. Thanks so much for your position on the program. Supremacy of the law should actually be raised supreme, and politicians and everyone should adhere to it. Well, the lawmakers are also politicians. So when you talk about even the lawmakers, they are also politicians. Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Prince Mede is my name from Makede.
Okay. Mede who? I think Prince is your title, right?
Prince Mede.
Okay, Prince Mede, where are you reaching us from?
I think the person there is a learned person, a lawyer by profession. Lawyers are the problem here in the country, and the judges. Because if it is the case that the lawyer will say no, this case is not like this, they will forge ahead. They will tell you that this thing, that this here, this is your right, this is your right. The judgment that they are talking about Rivers are here in the state. You can recall that our past immediate governor, the cry governor, that cried for the pensioners that are not being paid. When he come on the board, he was not paying the pensioners. And he defaulted from the APC to PDP. Nobody talked about it. Nobody queried him. The lawyers were there.
Prince, hello.
The lawyer that is in the office was there as well. Nobody talked about it.
Hello, Prince. I think what you are mentioning is outside of the context of our program. So just focus on what we are discussing and stay away from other issues that are not connected to the program.
It's okay. So what I'm trying to say, the lawyers and the judges have to be brilliant, because in the same case, the judgment will be passed in different cases. This one will pass its own, favor the one he wants. The other one will pass the one that will favor him. So there will be a conflict judgment altogether. So which one would you implement if you are in that case? Which one would you implement?
Okay.
So at the end of the day, the Supreme Court has passed the judgment. So let them abide by the Supreme Court judgment, which is the final court of the land.
All right. Prince Mede, thank you for calling in. Okay, Prince wants the Supreme Court's judgment on Rivers to be respected. It's the final court of the land.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Perspectives.
Thank you very much. My name is Comrade Achimi Oguche, calling from Modern Market Road.
Okay.
I want to first and foremost thank your discussant in the studio there.
Thank you.
Actually, thank you, sir. Actually, the problem of this country now, it is obvious that the judiciary are the problem of this country because of the type of judgment and ruling they are giving. All his, how do they call it? All his order that is given, you can see that the judiciary there are quashing all this executive order because they have a very strong institutions. But in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. Look at what is happening in Rivers State. What was in the Supreme Court was different from the judgment they were giving. Now, the governor now, because he wants peace, he wants to abide by the ruling. There are people that are bent on causing crisis, and they were ready to mess up the governor. When he went to present the budget, you can imagine the whole governor being locked out. So from the look of things and what is happening at the National Assembly, in the Senate in particular, I believe our democracy, we cannot continue like this. So in my opinion, it is better military intervention.
No, that is not our advocacy. Our subject matter on this program does not have to do.
That is my own personal opinion.
No. We do not accept such categorical opinion on our engagement because that is not what the program is about. We are not calling for that. All this, Machimo Ogucha, thank you. Thanks for calling in. We appreciate you. I'm sorry, we should be guided, even though it's your personal opinion, we should be properly guided to make a submission in line with what the program is about and not outside our context, please. Thank you. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Welcome to Perspectives.
Nat, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Tebe Akase, my colleague, how are you? John Aduku on the line.
Thank you, John Aduku.
You they laugh, but you have become a lawyer.
No, I can't.
Oh boy, thank you very much. Your contribution is very sound. I'm happy that I have a professional that is talking as you are talking. Be confident. What you are talking, you are assertive.
Yeah. We have two learned gentlemen who are our analysts on the program.
I know, but let me comment my own yet. Let me comment my own first. Yes.
Okay, your own is not in the studio with us, sir.
Well, who is talking like Tebe Akase there?
Okay, maybe you lost a connection. Maybe there's a semblance of voice or so.
Okay. That is serious. So that guy can take him as Tebe Akase anywhere.
Okay.
that guy is very sad.
All right.
So please let me go on. Let me start from the National Assembly. When this thing happened last time, my Facebook comment, I said that has the National Assembly forgot his book, because as Matt said earlier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cases have been ruled against submission. Okay, they are supposed to go back to their
hello, sir.
Hello?
Your network, the network at your end seems to be very unstable. Maybe you want to change your position so there may be an improvement. Yes, sir. Speak on. It's still breaking, but we can hear your voice.
Okay, just manage me out.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, there are already made by the Supreme Court on the National Assembly. You cannot suspend a member. That one is there. Then only Rivers. What happened in Rivers? Justice Onogen, as the back rightly already ruled, are wasting the time in this country. They are wasting our time. Like that. Go to the books. What they call disconnected. It's happening in River, it's happening in Plateau during our Sanjo. And Joshua Dari and the 6 members took decisions in the State House of Assembly. We have plenty of that type of examples. So please, if we want this country to move on, let's obey the rule. And
Okay.
I hate a situation whereby the you are, the law respects you.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank you. The network is not getting friendly anymore, but we appreciate your submission. I think the bottom line is we should obey the rule of law, as you stated. You already pleaded that we should manage you, so I felt guilty disconnecting you. That's okay. Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Nathan.
Thank you.
My name is Ibrahim Akura. Maybe John Purpose from Wankumba Tiagbo, local government.
All right. Igbayima Harris Banku this morning.
You are cool and kind, sir. My regards to your guests in the studio.
Thanks so much. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for this particular topic of today. You know, it is very shameful for our country, Nigeria, in the sense that those that are in the helms of the affair, in order to make laws, turning themselves down to lawbreakers, which is not good. And those in the position of authority having vested interest in any given matter, in order to burn our judges, to coin what will be interested to them, it is not good. To me, the lasting solution for this, as so far as judges are not standing up to exercise their function optimally, the removal of immunity clause in our laws will be the way forward, so that those that are in position of authority, they will be fearing what they want know to them. That is my take. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Igbayima. Okay, Igbayima. Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. This is Bello Musa calling from London.
Bello Musa, thank you. Your voice sounds so low.
My greeting to the guests there.
Thank you.
I think what is going in the National Assembly, one day, I think the forum of Nigerian governors will suspend another governor in Nigeria as time goes on. So they will leave the state without a governor. I think that as we are going, that is what will happen next time. Because it started from the assembly, or that it continue. And one day they will remove they will suspend a governor from their forum. So I think that is nice. Because if not, somebody that was elected, the same vote that would bring him, the same vote bring you, and you have suspended that person just because you give that person just with the leadership, they give him the same thing that brings you, and tomorrow you can that woman can be the Senate president if God will, and you are suspending her for just nothing. And even say there is a seat where the same voting person that cannot fit in one seat, another person, and the same vote that brings you all together.
Okay,
What is that? What is democracy?
Bello Musa, when you mentioned that the governor's forum will suspend a governor, would they suspend the person for not obeying the rule of law, or what exactly?
What did she do? That the suspender? Did she obey another? Did she disobey something? That is their own case, their own law in the house here. And if the governors have their own law like that, they will suspend him.
Okay.
It's not right.
All right. Bello Musa, thank you. Thanks so much. We pray we don't get to the stage where governors will also be suspended by their colleagues. I think the governors don't have that place that way. Hello, the number to call again, 0814-335-9292, 0814-335-9292. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Nathaniel. Good morning to your guests there. I am Engineer Sunday Akpa, and I'm calling from Nobak, Makodi.
Thank you, Engineer.
My contribution is simple. Only God Almighty will help us in this country. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Only God Almighty will help us. God has already helped us. I think so. He has given us all we need. Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir. Nathaniel. I'm Kate Joseph calling from North Bank.
Kate, go ahead.
Okay, the problem we are having concerning this issue of the rule of law is like the law is complex because if we take a look at the issue in the Benue State House of Assembly here, we can see that the members who suspended their colleagues were quoting a section of the Constitution, while other people who were cancelling their decision were also quoting the same Constitution. So the Constitution itself is complex. That is why we are having this problem of the rule of law, because the law will say one particular thing in the other section and chapter of the Constitution. Moving further in another chapter, you see that you see the cancelling itself. So that is a problem. So my opinion, I'm calling for the review of the Constitution. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Joseph, the law is complex. Maybe when we come back, we'll talk about citizens' awareness of the Constitution, because if Joseph is saying the law is complex, we need to simplify. Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, my name is Comrade Samson Akombo.
Okay, where are you reaching us from?
Yes, I'm calling from Kilometer 4, Tionsha, Makudi Naska Road.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yes, even yesterday I said to my children, I was wondering the kind of law we have in Nigeria. The same crime somebody will commit today, the same crime somebody will be interpreting the same law for the person. The same crime somebody will be interpreting the law against the person. And the same people will be quoting the same constitution that we have. It's a worrisome issue. So I am joining millions of Nigerians that are calling for review of the 1999 constitution. So let's have a law that would define what is bad and what is good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for calling in, sir.
Yeah.
Well, good enough. The review is ongoing, but I think, is it about defining what is good and bad? In any case, that's your opinion. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Hello.
Hello.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. I'm Honorable Abagebre.
Abagebre, where are you reaching us from?
From Atusa, Makodi.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you in the studio this morning. You have opened our eyes to a lot of things.
Thank you.
Especially our learned men there. I just want to say something. In a democratic institution like this, I think peaceful protest is allowed. The case of Rivers, where the Supreme Court have decided that the offices of the lawmakers were vacant, and later for them to reverse it, is enough reason for Nigeria to come out and protest. There's provision for review of Supreme Court judgment. I don't know what the opposition is doing, because another person will come another day and will capitalize on what, or make reference to what the Supreme Court have done now, and then continue with this thing. It's not good. Thank you.
Okay, Abab Gabriel, thank you for your position. We'll get to find out if the Supreme Court can also review itself or reverse some of its pronouncements. Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Morning. You sound very distant from your phone.
Sure, I'm calling from Wait. My name is Jonathan.
The name is who?
My name is Jonathan. I'm from Wait.
Jonathan who? And which part of Gwe East are you calling from?
That is Bakume, Baju.
Okay. But I didn't get your full name, Jonathan.
Okay, my full name, I say it's Jonathan. No, Jonathan.
No. Okay, go ahead. Jonathan, could you sound very close to your phone? You sound very distant. Maybe your phone is not close to you.
All right. Thank you. I've made that clear. Easy.
Go on.
I appreciate what you brought out this morning. I had somebody, I came late, but I had what that man spoke. Whether it's a lawyer, I don't know. He said they suspend somebody and they say that person should not parade herself or himself as a member. And the person has not been paid. So I am so surprised because I don't know where this country is going directly. And one, we Nigerians, we are not sincere because we have lost life because of the sake of money. If we all Nigerians agree that we should depend on one particular thing and do the right thing, I believe God Almighty will be with us and will continue to guide us. Because if some people say he will say the right thing, they will say no, this man is not saying the right thing. Let's take his life away. So to me, it pains me and I feel it much because it's not supposed to be done like this. So I am praying that our leaders who have home enough of money and they cannot help the poor, please they should go on their knees to pray so that God will forgive them and change their minds and they will serve this country as one of the best.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not educated, but this is little I can just contribute. May God bless you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your position, Jonathan. Every person's opinion counts on this program, whether you're educated or not. You need not to emphasize you're not educated. Thanks very much for your position. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
My name is Tewasi. I'm calling from.
Tewasi, could you move away from your radio set or turn down its volume, please?
Okay, I'm moving away.
Okay. Which part of Makudi, Tewasi?
I'm calling at high level to be precise.
Very well. Now
mine is this issue of the executive. From the look of things, I felt that the executive they have been given too much power. And because of that, they are almost becoming dictators in our laws. The way they force the judiciary to interpret the law and the way things are going, I think they are calling for a problem in this country. That's right, because who are saddled with the responsibility that if a Senate president, a complaint has been lodged against him, and he's still sitting there and presiding over a case that has been labeled, an allegation that has been labeled against him. And who are there in the position to say no, that the man should step aside? And so I'm an advocate too of these people that are advocating that immunity should be removed from the executive so that we will have a smooth way of running our constitution. If not, they are almost dictating to us as if they are military. Thank you very much.
Okay, Tewasi, thank you for your position for the removal of immunity clause. And maybe for senators, do they have the immunity? I don't think so. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Hello.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, sir.
Good morning, Natalie.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jonathan Chawi, and I'm calling you from Utko Estate, North Bata.
Okay, sir. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Well, your panelists have talked very well, but we want to just re-emphasize what they have said. There's no rule of law in Nigeria as such, and the greatest culprits are the executive, the governors in particular, not just the current governors, the past ones too, refuse to obey court orders. But the present ones, I think, is more. Now, instead of learning, we are just retrogressing. And this is calling for anarchy in the country. Because if I can't get justice from the court, then I will resort to helping myself. But whatever means. And let them not think that those means are not possible in this country. They are. They are very possible. There was a court order that the previous elected local government chairman should not be dissolved. They got dissolved against that court order. Up to now, nothing has been done about it. And I also think that the courts themselves, one of the panelists said that the houses of assembly voted against their independence. I wonder whether if they allow the court to vote for complete independence, they will also not vote against it. Yes.
Okay.
Because our people, Nassamie,
Yes, sir.
our people worship money. Money is the god of most Nigerians. So the person who holds the money can tell them to do anything. And that's why you have conflicting judgments in the court. And the governors boast. There was one governor who boasted that he knows that in Nigeria money speaks loud. And big money speaks loudest. That governor is one of the top boss in Nigeria who boasted like that. The courts know. The courts, they know that some of the cases they accept. They do not have jurisdiction. But they accept the court. Nathaniel, let me just tell you my experience.
Briefly,
recently.
sir. Briefly.
We went to court to get our entitlements paid to us from Tarakumis. The governor then said we should stop and we would agree. We agreed. But the court, knowing what governors can do, said after we have agreed, we should bring it and the court will adapt it as a consent judgment. The judge, he told us the advantages of consent. So that's exactly what we did. The governor, of course, didn't order that, obey that agreement, which became a consent judgment of a court now. We went to appeal. The appeal gave us a judgment that we should be paid. And there is a law, I'm told by lawyers, that all cases emanating from industrial court terminate at the appeal court. When the appeal court gave judgment, the governor boasted to us that he is going to Supreme Court. And he went to Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court accepted the case. First, when we got there, they said, they have no jurisdiction over this. But if people will say that we have given them money. The high court, the highest court in the
world. Yes,
okay, not want independence.
Thanks so much, sir. Let's take some messages before we law established, deliberated upon, authorized, and in the legislature, judiciary, and the executive arms of government. Wow, what a complex question. If the system of public policy decisions are not properly yielding results from public interest, no community in Nigeria will remain in peace. Even if you remain quiet, your mind will be bleeding or itching for lack of transparency and accountability in Nigerializing by those in authority. Nyajo Godwin from Bajimba. Okay, Nyajo, thank you for your message. Good morning, the presenter and guests in the house. My name is Kanti Michael from Gado Villa. I must admit, your guests have spoken very well that adherence to the rule of law in Nigeria will be difficult because the haves in our society feels they can obtain judgment at any point and anyhow they want it in their favor until the judiciary gets their complete independence, government and the rest will start adhering to court orders. Thank you. Okay, Kanti Michael, thank you. The fundamental problem with adherence to the rule of law in Nigeria is that we have very powerful leaders who are evidently above the law, and on the other hand, very weak institutions. What we need are strong institutions, not strong leaders. Until this is achieved, things will continue the way they are. Gabriel Onyilo from Honor Occupy Extension, Makodi. Gabriel Onyilo, thanks for your participation. We appreciate your message. This one says this in our WhatsApp box. Good morning to you and the guests. The presidential system which we claim to practice has come with a baggage of impunity which impacts negatively on infrastructure development and the rule of law. Without any hesitation, a return to a modified parliamentary system will serve us better in terms of development of the rule of law. Under the present system, the executive and most especially the governors have become demigods who don't feel accountable to any authority. Unlike parliamentary system, the legislature are nothing but glorified rubber stamps, always looking for a piece of the cake, all to the detriment of development of the rule of law. It's time to strengthen the independence of the judiciary and protect the freedom of the press. Should combat all corruption at all levels of government and respect the rights of all Nigerians, regardless of political affiliation. Go Ephraim from Welfare Quarters in Makudi. Ephraim, thank you for your message. One more call and then we'll come back. Hello, good morning. Hello. Oh, we lost connection with you already. Now, let's pause on the calls temporarily and come back. You have listened to the callers. I'll begin with you, Barrister Martin. Some posited that the judiciary is part of the problem Nigeria have. And I have a question there that if the legislature voted against its autonomy, he's wondering whether legal practitioners can actually also vote for their own judicial autonomy. But like I mentioned earlier, on paper, there is that autonomy for the judiciary. And some callers here opined that the judiciary is part of the problem Nigeria have. Speak as a public affairs commentator, not as a lawyer this time, because maybe as a lawyer you will side with the judiciary.
All right, I just wish to state that, number one, we are collectively part of the Nigerian problem as a people. Now, absolute power, the power resides with the people, the electorate who elect leaders. And it seems for a very long time we have been toying with the opportunity of election. So I have always painted this scenario. It's only a hypocrite who engage a known thief to be a watchman over his house and then expect that items won't be stolen. So we have over time formed this habit of electing corrupt leaders or people with questionable character to govern us as a people. And then we tend to expect the best from them. Now let me give a practical scenario example. The governor has many executive powers, statutorily and constitutionally, in effecting a lot of appointments. Whether as a judge, he has a role to play. So whether as a commissioner, he has a role to play, and most times by extension, even at federal appointment or ministerial appointment or ambassadorial appointment, he has a role to play as far as nominating people from his own state. Now, when we elect questionable people into such offices and then turn around to expect the best from them, we'll be thinking the impossible. Now, let me answer your question about the judiciary.
Yes.
Now, substantially because of the absence of sanctions in our country, a lot of things go wrong. The man who is driving against traffic feels he is not the problem of this country. He feels it is the chairman of the local government or the governor or the president is the problem. The man who stands on the street and urinates anyhow or at will feels it's not the problem of this country. The man dumping refuse in the drainage feels it's not the problem of this country. Another person is the problem of this country. So collectively we are part of the problem. And I agree that the judiciary has a lot of role to play in reforming this country. And at the moment, they are very far from achieving that goal. That's my take on that. And I greatly agree with the first caller who, to a very large extent, faulted lawyers as part of the problem of this country. And I agree. We are part of the problem of this country. Because under the military rule or era, we had judges who were fearless to tell the military head of states the truth in the face. I remember the case of the governor of Lagos State versus Ojukwu versus the governor of Lagos State, where Ojukwu's house was demolished or taken over by the military government at that time. The Supreme Court was fearless to tell the military government at that time that what they did was an illegality and unlawful. But today, we seem to have departed from that. And at the moment, until we review or reform the process of appointment of judges, I'll give you an example. This is an example that a lot of people may not be comfortable with. Most of politicians today have their wives or as in relations as judges in this country. Look around. It is a strategic move for them because they have realized how important and instrumental the judiciary is to power and then seizing and consolidating power in this country. So you look around. In one way or the other, they have influenced either a family person, a brother or a sister, and by extension, sometimes concubines, as judges. So what then do you expect when matters, political matters or whatever coloration come before these very judges who are affiliated or has one thing or the other to do with the person that influenced the appointment? So when we sit back and lament about the quality of judgment and some of the things we see in our system, we are part of the problem.
But what if
we celebrate?
What if the appointments of the judges are based on merit? For instance, you are Matimi. For instance, if you become a politician tomorrow, and maybe your spouse is also a legal practitioner and rises through the ranks to ascend to her position, won't she be given because you are a politician and your wife?
My statement does not in any way suggest that there are no appointments that are made on merit, but we have instances. We have instances where such processes are designed or conducted in such a way to benefit a certain interest or a certain group of persons for whatever motive such persons have. Now these are some concerns that we have, and if you begin to engage with lawyers who are very sincere with you, they will tell you some of these issues. But it's very rare you see people come on television, on radio to say some of these things. But there are some of the concerns we have. Now, situations where merit has been downplayed, those who merit are not given the opportunity. But based on who you are connected to or who you know, that you get some of these appointments, then we shouldn't expect the best from these people. So, fear the absence of sanction. I always tell people, most of the developed nations are developed today, and people obey the law because of the fear of sanction. So any society that does not strengthen its sanction mechanism will have a lot of issues. And that seems to be the problem we're having today. No sanctions. Even where they exist, they are not applied to those who run foul of our laws. Okay, someone has stolen about billions. He's standing trial at the moment. At the end of the day, before you know, there is a plead by gain arrangement. Okay, forfeit a portion of it and then we'll let you go. People were convicted, even up to the Supreme Court, former governors, and a sitting president gave them pardon. Go and sin no more. Your sins are forgiven. After a lot of state resources were expended in the trial of these persons. Now, when a poor man on the street steals a chicken, he receives the full weight of punishment. Then
you lawyers are behind that.
Now, the challenge is this. The challenge is this. Who are the lawmakers? The judges apply the law. Now, there are situations where the judge himself will tell you, my hands are tied because I'm applying the law. Now, the quality of persons we have as lawmakers go a long way in defining the quality of laws you have. Now, why is it that at the moment we don't have any law in Nigeria stopping our politicians or leaders from receiving medical attention abroad, stopping them from taking their children abroad for education, so that they will see the need to fix our institution, educational institutions and health institutions. So you build hospitals, you can't attend them. The hospitals are meant for who? The poor people, the poor masses. So what hypocrisy are we promoting as a people? So until we begin to have quality laws, and then the people must realize that during election, it is not about collecting Maggie and some peanuts from politicians. Then electing people whom you know have questionable character, people whom you know do not mean well for this country. We know ourselves. If you vie for an election, now maybe because you don't have money, irrespective of whatever manifesto you have for your people, they are not interested in it. So they follow those with the big monies and money bags and all that. At the end of the day, we sit back and we are lamenting about this the same problem. So until the masses realize that the power they have, the term they have, is very, very crucial in them exercising their right to vote carefully, so that the right people are put in place, and then we'll have a better system for ourselves.
Hello, good morning. Let's take some concluding calls. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
This is Comrade Johnson. I'm calling from the local government area of Benue State.
Johnson?
In Alede.
Johnson who?
Yes. I'm Johnson Teso.
Okay, go ahead, Johnson.
Actually, the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. and the judiciary is expected to be very, very transparent. But as it stands, we, the common man, we believe that the judiciary has sold its right to the executive. The judiciary is supposed to be the most strongest arm of government, but they have allowed the executive. I don't know whether it's because of the finance that they take control of, that the executive now, they have both them with the resources that they are controlling. You know, if you can recall back, there was this case in Benue State that someone was accused of not having a particular thing, and because of 180 days, the people who filed the case, they were denied of their unfair hearing, which was a fundamental human right. So the barrister in the house, I want to ask this question, that is it good because of time, one should not be allowed to express his own right?
Okay.
Or so that's my take, please.
Thank you, Johnson. We appreciate you. And that will be the last call we'll take because we do not have time anymore. Barrister IBM, you listen to this, so respond to him pointedly, and then we address other issues to conclude.
Election petitions could be conducted and concluded seamlessly and speedily. This situation arose because over the years, election petitions dragged on and on and on. And by the time perhaps judgment was given, sometimes somebody had even completed a tenure. Now, when you talk about law, the law deserves that rules should be given their ordinary literal interpretation. But when you ask the question, why was a particular legislation made? For you to successfully interpret that position, you need to ask, what was the reason for enacting this legislation? And for the 180-day rule, if we are thinking, for me, I honestly expected the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court to go beyond the literal meaning of 180 days.
All right. So that dispensed with. Let's look at, because we do not have time again, how can citizens hold their leaders accountable, especially for the purpose of upholding the rule of law?
As things stand right now, and I think in a democracy, it is through the ballot. When you fail to deliver on the terms of your mandate, you are voted out. But that is becoming increasingly difficult. The Nigerian electorate is in a Stockholm syndrome. A syndrome where your captor, your abductor, your kidnapper, you start empathizing with him and sharing his views and can even go all out to defend him. So it's going to be really, really difficult for the Nigerian electorate to hold their rulers accountable. And there are three things that I consider very serious factors in this situation. Number one, the abject poverty in the land deprives a lot of people from speaking their mind or having a mind of their own. Number two, ignorance/illiteracy of what needs to be done. Number three, selective amnesia. We remember what we want to remember. We have very short memories, especially when some form of inducement comes out. We forget all that to hold our leaders accountable. The way the current situation stands, I don't see it happening.
Okay, now, Barrister Matimi, what steps can be taken to strengthen the rule of law in Nigeria? And, of course, a summary of the different roles stakeholders, beginning with the citizens, can play.
Now, we need to embark on aggressive sensitization of citizens and then the role they play in galvanizing and then supervising the development of their society. And the truth is that when we focus so much on leadership as a problem of Nigeria, we forget the vital aspect of followership.
That's the citizens.
Now the citizens,
yes.
And then if you look around, an informed citizenship is what we need. Now we have many uninformed citizens who go around celebrating, worshiping, idol worshiping the leaders who are responsible for their current situation. In fact, we have in this country experienced situations where people stole billions in office. Upon arraignment, had poor people troop in court in protest of their trial. Now, the same man who is responsible for the absence of medicine in the hospitals, the same man who is responsible for the bad state of the road, the same man who cannot give you water, once peanuts are dished out, we begin to celebrate and worship them until the informed citizenship is worked on, until our people are educated. We may find it very difficult holding our leaders accountable. The truth is this: when you go out to vote on the day of election, even when there are instances of vote buying or polling unit, you may not be approached because they know you. The quality of education, they know the capacity you possess. They may not confront you. I have experienced that in my polling unit. People were my childhood friends that we grew up together will come, oh boy, they have given us also amount to, but nobody met me. To even refuse that, no, I'm not interested in selling my votes and all that. So once people are becoming more informed, once people are becoming more conscious about the effect of their action on the society, how their actions affect the society, the quality of what they know, to a very large extent, will help improve our society. And that's why I always find it very difficult when we have our schools on strike, at the instance of our leaders who show no concern for that, because the truth is that if the citizen is educated, there are limited options for you to compromise and use that citizen. But the large majority of the voters are even uninformed. Go to the polling unit, some do not even know how to vote. So they need someone to guide them on how to vote. So our leaders take advantage of that. So once we begin to educate our people about some of the implications of these little actions, it's not just about those in public position or offices. It is accountability at every level. In your office, what do you do? At home, are you accountable?
All right, because I will not give you another time, just give your concluding thoughts in 30 seconds.
We need to strengthen our institutions. We need to grow our institution. If Nigeria must respect and adhere to the rule of law, then we must have powerful institutions as opposed to having powerful individuals who dictate to the institution what they want to be done. That is the best way to grow a nation. I recall during the Trump re-election bid that he lost out to Biden, he wanted to influence the process by utterances he made. But because the institutions were powerful, they resisted that move, and he lost out at the end of the day. That's the state of affairs we want. So integrity should be the way to go. We should value integrity, and we should think about the future generation. For those who are up to the age of 30, there is no guarantee that you live in the next 70 years. So when you are no more, what will you be remembered for? So that would be the question I'll ask the audience. What will you be remembered for when you are no more? So think about the actions and what you do and how it affects your immediate society and then the generation unborn.
All right. Barrister Ibiam, let me have your concluding thoughts in 60 seconds, please.
Yes, the rule of law is a very, very fundamental and guiding principle that should direct our daily existence. The rule of law, if strengthened, if adhered to, will create for a more stable and durable society. I want to end this with a brief story that it's an emerging situation. Special Assistant on Boundary Affairs, Kosofe Local Government in Lagos State, discovers that several billions have been pilfered by the executive of the local government. He does a whistleblowing thing. And these guys are invited by the ICPC and the EFCC, etc., to give statements on what the reports were. Last week, chairman of the local government goes back to the police and tells them that this guy divulged official secrets. And the police came and arrested this guy, detained him for 3 days. They only charged him to court, I think, on Tuesday or so, where he was granted bail. On Tuesday, just a few days ago. Now, when you talk about divulging official secrets, how does that become a crime? There are punishments for this, but people act with impunity. The man who has been accused of stealing billions goes back to influence the machinery of state against the man who makes a report against him. And those kind of situations abound. And those situations will continue existing as long as the rule of law is obeyed more in the breach than in obedience. So, rule of law, very, very fundamental, and its cardinal principles: accountability, fairness, impartiality, and obedience by all and sundry, but most especially the institutions of state, will engender a more peaceful and conducive society for everyone.
All right. Let me thank you very sincerely, Barrister Timothy Amatime, legal practitioner and public affairs commentator. Barrister Mark Ibiam is also a legal practitioner and a public affairs commentator. This learned gentlemen, they joined us here on this edition of Perspectives, which will focus on assessing adherence to the rule of law. I thank you very much both for your valuable insight. Thank you for coming on Perspectives.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nathaniel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dear listener, that's our program today. Join us next week, Monday, for a fresh edition. My name is Nathaniel Noble. Have yourself a great weekend. Goodbye.